What is going on, everybody? Hopefully you guys are doing well out there. That's right. We are back again here on the Sports Card Show program. Very special show for everybody today. And why is that? Because we have a sponsor, Manscaped.com. Your balls will thank you. I've got it right here. This podcast is sponsored by Manscaped.com. I tell you what, Ryan, I've played around with this for a week or so, and this is a great product because it allows you to shave any parts of your body, especially the private parts, and not get nicked and cut. Ryan, what's your experience with the Manscaped product?
This is a must-have product if you are single because it could potentially save your life. One of the biggest features on it that you don't even realize is it has a light on it. And you don't even realize how important that is until you're in the shower or you're in a tight spot or at a really weird angle and you need to get it to go. If you're married, you might want to check with your wife before making a purchase like this and doing some manscaping down there so that she doesn't get surprised or concerned. But if you're single, I'm telling you, this is an absolute must-have. Women love it. They love you trimmed up down there. If you haven't done it, you need to try it. This thing, I'm telling you, if you try another trimmer, just a regular old beard trimmer or whatever, you try it down there. No.
Asking for
And
trouble.
then the thought of putting like a straight edge razor down there. No. This
Bad
thing,
idea.
literally, you take it in the shower, you do it wherever, you take it outside, whatever you want to do. Right on skin to skin, put it wherever you need to put it, trim up whatever you need to put it on. I'm telling you, these women, they eat it up. They love it. So I absolutely love it. I was actually thinking about getting one, and then they hit us up. So Colin, what do we got, like a promo code, or how do these people get?
We got a promo code for everybody.
Must-have.
Head on over to manscaped.com, enter the promo code SCR, like for Sports Card Radio. So SCR is your promo code for manscaped.com. You're going to get 20% off plus free shipping as well. It is a fantastic product. We wouldn't take a sponsor, as most of you guys know, unless it's just a fantastic product. I've used it. I've used it in the shower. I've used it dry. It works. It's a high quality product. It recharges. It's nice. We love manscaped.com. Head on over to manscaped.com. Use the promo code SCR. You'll save a little bit of money and get free shipping on this wonderful product. Let's jump right into things, Ryan. We got the Sports Card Show podcast today. We are going to have a couple topics. First thing we're going to talk about is, because it appears, I'm not a doctor, but it looks like the coronavirus vaccines are working, right? And so it looks like we're going to get back to some normalcy here. It looks like the National Sports Collectors Convention is at least scheduled. Whether or not it happens, God willing, hopefully it does. We've got some other card shows that have been happening, have been going off. We've got a major one coming up in Texas in a few months. There's also one a few weeks, I think, before the National as well, that I think is a Fanatics one that I think you're going to be going to both. And so we'll talk about card shows, because there is a segment of the population that has just been getting back into cards. Obviously, we're going to talk about how red hot cards are, but it's red hot because we've got a lot of new people coming back into the hobby, or more specifically, maybe people coming back into the hobby. And so we'll talk about card shows, maybe some of the things that you can buy during the show, maybe you can sell, just some of the tips that you have since you've attended numerous shows over the year. Next thing we're going to jump into is we're going to talk about NFL, and it might seem weird. We're about to have baseball. Basketball's rolling into the playoffs. We've got March Madness, but there's a lot of people, especially here on YouTube and in podcast world, in the content game, that are talking about how it's sports cards are an investment, or speculation, whatever you want to say. And you want to be one step ahead of the game. And I think football is not really on people's mind right now. We haven't had the NFL draft. And as we know, the key position in the NFL is quarterback, and the hobby tends to revolve around the quarterback position. So I'm going to run down all 30 teams, talk about each quarterback position, each quarterback on that team, and potentially maybe there is some investing opportunities or just some collecting opportunities there as well. Now, finally, our last topic is we are going to talk about the sports card market, how hot it is, and how there is a lot of people coming into this market. I would say a lot of people are coming in all the time, But I think a lot of the people that came in when the pandemic started last year, right around this time, a lot of people did jump into the hobby. They jumped into crypto. They jumped into the stock market. So some of them have actually been around for about a year now. And so we're going to talk about like kind of the psychological, a little bit of like, most of these collectors have been around for about a year now. Obviously, some of them have collected before, but we'll talk about how, you know, a lot of the people that are giving quote unquote advice have never seen a down market, have never seen a sideways market. They've only seen Luka's go up, you know, $1,000 every few months. They've only seen Giannis's 10x. They've only seen cards like skyrocket in price. And so now we're starting to see a little bit of stagnation, a little bit of sideways action, especially in the modern stuff. We'll talk about that. And then we'll talk about the absolutely skyrocketing price that we've been seeing in the iconic cards like Michael Jordan, Magic Johnson, Larry Bird, Bo Jackson, like some guys that are not even necessarily in the Hall of Fame. We're seeing just stratospheric type, price movement in those cards versus kind of the stalling out that we've seen in the modern card game. So we'll talk a little bit about that stuff. Let's kick things off, Ryan, with card shows are returning. And I know that you're excited about that, almost as excited about getting your Manscaped at manscaped.com using the promo code SCR. I know that you're almost as excited about going to the National again this year, which I think is in the Chicago, Illinois area. And so talk about, you know, some general tips that you have for people that might be going to their show for the first time, or their first show in the first time in over a year.
Well, I think if you're going to smaller shows, it's easier to just hit every table, come with a budget or whatever you have on you, maybe make some new friends, maybe even bring some cards that you want to sell. That's always a good idea. That's actually maybe a tip that I have. Sometimes the ATM machines down there in Chicago at the National, they literally run out of cash. So you either have to run across the street to a hotel maybe, or go down the street, or have a bunch of cash on you. So sometimes it's easier to have some cards on you maybe that you're looking to sell. And so one of my tips would be to bring some cards that maybe you would sell anyways, and maybe make some trades or look to sell to dealers. At the National specifically, dealers are always looking to buy. So you're not going to have any price, and especially I'm sure this year, dealers are always looking to buy.
What kind of pricing can, you know, is it like a wholesale environment where if I bring a Jordan that's selling for 30 on eBay, are they going to want maybe a higher price, maybe like $100 on eBay? You know, are they going to offer me 20? Are they going to offer me 30? Or is it like,
No,
you know, a little bit higher than that?
I think it depends who you go to. I know I sold some Trout autographs, and we actually had to look those up on eBay. To see, I think they were selling at the time for like $350, and he might have gave me 320 or something like that. So I felt like it was a fair deal. I know Brian Gray, one of our friends, I'll sit there, and I think he gives you like eBay market value. So I think it depends who you go to. And my second tip would be to understand and know your prices. So definitely know the stuff you're bringing to trade or to sell, understand what you're looking to get out of it. And then crucially, if you're looking to buy, spend a little bit of time studying or brushing up on the prices for certain cards. So say, for instance, at the National, that's right there in Chicago this year, I'm probably going to be looking for Michael Jordan graded cards. So I'm going to really brush up on, you know, the pricing for 9s and 10s and certain ones that I'm looking for, certain years and sets, and really understand those pricing. Because when you're there, sure, you can pull out your phone at any moment, and that's not awkward anymore at a show or environment to pull out your phone and maybe check prices even in front of a dealer. But it's better, I think you can make quicker deals and use your time more wisely if you understand and know your prices. That'll lead me to my third tip. If you're going to a show like the National, and maybe you're not like me, I used to go the whole time. I used to come in on Wednesday and leave on Sunday. So I had all week to really soak it in and go to each dealer and look at all the tables and kind of get bored with it. Whereas a lot of people, they don't have that kind of time. Maybe they're only sliding in for a day or two. That's probably what I'm going to do this year. So you want to come with a plan, and it kind of reminds when I tell people to go visit Vegas, don't think you got to do it all in one trip. Meaning that if you go to the national, don't feel like you got to hit every table and go grade cards and sit there and wait for promos at Tops and blah, 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 and waste all this time. Pick the five priorities maybe that you have. Find some Brandon Ingram cards or grade some cards at PSA or go watch some Breakers Break cards or whatever have you, and go do those things. Go do the things that you're most interested in. Don't feel like you're going to miss out on anything, especially in the national environment, a big show like that. Smaller shows, you could, if you have the time, you could basically do everything because there's only going to be maybe 30, 40 tables or less in some cases. But a big show like the national, trust me, one day you're not going to do it all, especially if you have to wait maybe to grade cards or wait for some promo packs, or you get talking to some people that can take up, hours out of your day. So definitely those. Some very simple tips about wearing comfortable clothing, having some sports card supplies on you, having a backpack that you see a lot of people rolling around, the rollers at the national and so forth. So being prepared about maybe what you're taking in. Hey, I'm going to pick up some singles, so maybe you only need a backpack. But if you're kind of a guy who loads up, you're going to have to plan around. Hey, how am I carrying that stuff around? How am I getting that from the show to my car or to my house or what have you? Those are things that I'm planning out. I'm thinking about buying some cards and shipping them back to me or shipping them to a consignor or so forth when I'm at the national. Just some things I'm thinking about there. I got through about four or five tips there, but certainly the one about the national, about not feeling like you have to do everything. It's like a Vegas trip. Don't feel like you've got to walk up and down the strip and get tired and get worn out. Just go to a show, go to Javier's, stay at a 5-star casino and go home. So similar idea with the national. And the great thing about the one out in Chicago, the airport, O'Hare Airport, which is a disaster, but it is right next door to the venue. There's several hotels if you do want to stay right next to the venue. And again, we're talking specifically about the national here. There's also a Fanatics Authentic show coming up there June 4th through the 6th. Same venue. I think less dealers. I think maybe about 350 dealers. We'll see if that goes off or not. But with the national specifically and that Fanatics show, you can literally fly in, stay at a hotel, go to the venue, and it's all right there within like 5 or 10 minutes. Okay. Now you don't get to experience downtown Chicago. I like to go stand down into the city. That is a good 20, 30 minutes away from the venue and from the O'Hare Airport. It's a little bit of a ways. Downtown Chicago, kind of the main place, Wrigley Field, that kind of place. So it kind of depends what you're looking for out of the environments. But Chicago's maybe one of the easiest places if you are thinking about a national to slide in and out. This is going to be a crazy busy year. You need to get your tickets, because I've seen in past years when cards were 25% as hot as they were now, lines out the door to get in, being sold out and getting shut out. So you need to get your tickets now, and whether or not VIP or general admission or whatever. And I got to email the guy and say that I'm coming so that I get my pass and so that I can get in as well. You want to make sure you have that dialed in, because walking up and trying to get tickets this year, they might be sold out. And you also have to worry about COVID, about capacity, about them letting a certain amount of people in. It is a blue state, Illinois is a blue state. So who knows what the real story is going to be for these card shows. Still a few months away, fingers crossed that everything continues to go well and those go off. But those are my tips. I'm really looking forward to it. I might hit up that I think it's June 4th through the 6th, same venue as the national. What's it called? Fanatics Authentic Show. Might check that out, and then probably a month or two later head down for a day or two at the national. I'm not going to do the whole thing because it's going to be crowded. It is going to be freaking crowded this year. I can only imagine what it's going to be like. It's going to be pretty wild, but fun to see and just fun to witness. And you're going to want to get in there early. And man, because I remember in years past, it would sometimes be hard to shoot my videos and get into tables. This year is going to be times 10. It's going to be wild, but fun and good for the card community. Good if you had a table, man. Start hustling.
Yeah, get your inventory going now. Have stuff built up. Have you looked at hotel prices, airlines, things of that nature already, or
I haven't. I know on the Nationals website they have. Sometimes you can actually get a pretty good deal through them. And the hotels that are right around the National there in Rosemont, decent hotels. I've stayed at a few of them. They're nice and they're walkable to the venue. So
Oh,
it's
wow.
hard to beat that. Me personally, I like to stay into the city, so I kind of look into there. I would imagine if you jumped on right now and got flights,
Yeah.
I've been flying around a little bit the last month or two, and I've been getting flights for like $40, $20, $50. You know, not flying too far, but
Right.
you know, Chicago's huge airport right there. You definitely want to fly into O'Hare. They have the other airport, Midway, which is a little closer to the city. So again, unless you want to be over there in the city, don't fly into Midway. Make sure that you book your flight out to O'Hare. Stay out there in Rosemont because you're literally going to be walkable to the venue. And you never know with the humidity and crazy Midwest weather, you got to be a little careful. I've gotten caught out in the rain there myself. I think we've done a podcast. I came back so heated that's like a legendary podcast. I was so mad I got caught out in the rain and shit. And so got really mad at that one.
So what was I going to say? You know, what about the price? Like, you know, people are going to go there and they're going to have money in their pocket. Like you said, the ATMs kind of run out of cash. What kind of prices can people expect to see? Like if, you know, a Luka card or a Jordan card is selling for 300 on eBay, are you expected to pay that much, or are you seeing discounts on those types of cards?
You know, it's like anywhere else when you're shopping on eBay and you see overpriced Jordan cards, and then you see Jordan cards priced right, and then you see some at a deal potentially. Same way at the National. You're going to see the guys there that are there hustling, who are there flipping, where you can get a good deal, where maybe you can search through their boxes and they haven't repriced this stuff in a while and this stuff has gone up in value. There's going to be some of that. Then there's going to be quite a few dealers who this is just a show off. You get the vibe that they don't really want to sell anything because they're just there showing it off. Maybe they're more interested in buying, maybe that it's just a tax write-off for them or whatever it is, or you just have to hit their number. But no, they're at a show like the National that's so big, you know, as long as you're not looking for something too unique. But if you're looking to pick up Lucas, I don't think you're going to have a problem. You're looking to pick up Jordans, we're going to be in Chicago. I'd imagine there's going to be plenty of Jordans. You're looking to pick up some good bargain bin stuff, you know, maybe not as much as in years past. And there's going to be so many more people there. I can only imagine. It's going to be fun to witness. But you know, again, that's where if you know your prices coming in, the more knowledge you have up here, the better deals you're going to find, because you're going to approach a table and you're going to immediately know, ooh, that's a $10 discount on that Jordan card. That's a $50 discount on that card. So I just did a video. You could actually go to YouTube if you want to, about cards that I have seen at the National since 2012 and what has happened to the prices. Some of these cards, you know, were $500 and now worth 10,000. Some of these cards were 10,000 and are now worth 100. So you want to go take a look at that video, Sports Card Radio YouTube, and just check out some of the evolution of the pricing. And I got videos dating back to Nationals from 2012 on the Sports Card Radio YouTube, where you can go and see what it's going to be like. It's basically going to be the same as it always is, just times 4 or 5x many people, like for sure. There's not going to be that many new dealers because they grandfather in the dealers. Like the same dealers, because that's the way it works there, is you kind of grandfather in your table space and where you are in the venue. And certainly nobody's given up their tables the last few years, the way it's been going. So it's going to be the same people, same type of vibe, just way more people and way more attention while it's there. While the show is going on, people are going to be like, whoa, because there is going to be, you know, every single big card you could imagine is going to be there and is going to be for sale. And there's always these big auctions that are running at the same time. It's just a really fun time. So I'm looking forward to it. We'll see if it happens and to what degree, but people should definitely think about going if they're able and can.
And is it I mean, over the last year, payments have progressed quite a bit. Like Venmo's gotten more popular. PayPal obviously has been popular, but being able to go up to somebody with my phone and then, you know, Venmoing them the money, or obviously there's those Square or those Stripe card swipes. How many dealers would you say support that? Like if you don't want to roll with a bunch of cash, or you put a lot of your card, it might be that you don't have a lot of cash, you have a lot of credit or something like that. Is that something that's available?
That's funny you mentioned that because the last one I went to was in Cleveland, and I would say maybe over half the dealers would accept something like this. But the funny thing is the internet went out in the Cleveland Convention Center. So that was a big deal that they couldn't accept payments, and it was actually slowing down some business because out there in Cleveland, you're actually kind of out there in the middle of nowhere. Whereas in Chicago, you can maybe run across the street to a hotel and get some cash or do something. Whereas in Cleveland, you're like, you're out there, on LeBron's 250-acre ranch, out in the middle of nowhere, basically. So I know that was a problem. And then the internet connection broke down in the group breaker pavilion. So you can only imagine what a problem that must have been with no internet connection in the group breaker pavilion. So, but that was in Cleveland. The Chicago show, I don't recall anything being that, but your cell phone may not work when you're in there. I mean, there's going to be a lot of people who're going to be crammed in there. It is kind of like a airline hangar kind of thing. I don't know. Big commit. Obviously, it's got to be a massive kind of convention hall to fit all those people.
Right.
Be interesting how everything works with the COVID and all that stuff. It really will be interesting. But if the internet's working, I would say at least half the dealers accept PayPal, Venmo, cash, whatever, have some kind of credit card thing that they're swiping. And I would imagine this year potentially way more than that, because these guys have probably evolved and gotten on the ball and making real money doing this.
Right. Well, hopefully, if they get product, if they don't have a bunch of modern that hasn't gone up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Where's he been?
Exactly.
Is that it on the card shows? Anything else to add? Other than you can go to manscaped.com. Look at that light on there. It's so sweet. Look at that. That's key.
So useful.
Yeah. So I wear glasses, obviously. And so when you're in the shower, you take your glasses off, you can't see. Okay. And so having that light on there is nice, because when you can't see already, that light kind of lights it up and it makes it, but you're not going to get nicked with this thing. I mean, you can literally put your finger on this and it's not a big deal. Love Manscaped.
You can put a lot of things on that and you're not going to get nicked.
Yeah, right. A lot of important things. Manscaped.com, promo code SCR will save you some money and get you free shipping as well. Exclusive promo code here to the channel. Moving on. Next topic that we'll talk about. We're going to talk about football. Like, believe it or not, we got the NBA coming into playoff time. I think they're a few weeks away from that. But we got March Madness. I haven't watched a minute of March Madness, believe it or not. I've been watching golf and Blippy and Vlad and Nikki. That's about all I've been watching the last few weeks. No sport, not a lot of sports. We got baseball coming up. If we have time in today's show, we'll talk a little bit about baseball. But I think real quick, with baseball, you should be positioning yourself already. If you're a speculator or investor, however you want to talk about it, but you should be positioning yourself already. But I think with baseball, you can just ride the hot guy. The guy gets called up. The guy's doing something in minor leagues. The guy might get called up. He's looking like he's going to get called up. Just ride those guys. Okay. The day he gets called up, I can't tell you how many times I did this last year. The Giants would call a guy up. I'd go buy a couple of his cards check on my cards, kind of sell it out, reprice it. It would sell. It's not like the guy was that popular or would do anything. So with baseball, I think you can just ride the hot guy. Football, I think you need a little bit more advanced planning, because we're talking about one position primarily with football that does well. And we've seen with Mahomes, boy, if you hit it with football, you can knock it out of the park. You can make some really legitimate money. And here's the interesting thing that I've been seeing in football, just going through the starting quarterbacks. We've had a lot of like shifts in football where the guy sucked or the guy was good, like Baker Mayfield, and then he sucked and then he was good again. And then we've seen guys like Josh Allen in Buffalo came out, Buffalo is not that popular of a team, at least nationwide, not like Cowboys or Steelers or something like that. Came out, was good, but not great. And then all of a sudden blew up. I have him now in my top 5 quarterbacks in the NFL. And then you have a guy like Ryan Tannehill, who was basically off everybody's radar. I have him as the 4th ranked quarterback in the NFL. Not me personally. This was off an article off of NBC.com that I have here. So I'm going to run down all the teams, what their quarterback situation, and we'll kind of just discuss what the situation might be. Jacksonville, I think they got rid of Minshew, or they might get rid of Minshew. They're waiting for Trevor Lawrence, who will be the number 1 pick here in, I guess, a month or two. The NFL draft is going to happen. So Trevor Lawrence looked great in college. I don't know if you've seen him, Ryan, play, but is a mobile quarterback and is just, I think he's going to be very good. Okay. I'm as confident about him. Actually, I'll say this. I'm a big Bengals fan. I really like Joe Burrow in college, but I'm actually more confident that Trevor Lawrence will be an excellent quarterback in the NFL. How great will he be? Patrick Mahomes great? I don't think we need to mention Tom Brady. I don't think anybody's going to get to that level, but Trevor Lawrence, I think, is going to be a very outstanding quarterback in the NFL. And Jacksonville's got a new coach. I think they got the old Ohio State coach, bringing him in for the first, I think maybe for the first time, for a head coaching job in the NFL. That'll be interesting in Jacksonville. New York Giants, they have Daniel Jones. Here's another guy that came out really hot and sucked last year. So what way will Daniel Jones go? Will he go the Josh Allen route? Will he go the Baker Mayfield route? Or will he go down the road of some of these other guys like Marcus Mariota, or maybe even Jameis Winston, who we'll talk about here in a minute? The Broncos have Drew Lock. I think they drafted him last year or the year before, and he just hasn't performed. So another young quarterback who you can come in there and probably buy a little, certainly cheaper than the top quarterbacks that we'll talk about. But there's another quarterback that you can pick up and maybe speculate a little bit and which way he'll go, and not really take a big risk, because it's not like his cards probably cost that much unless you're talking about maybe silver prisms or things like that. The 49ers got Jimmy G. Jimmy G was in the Super Bowl. What was his tagline? He was like, it feels great, baby. I mean, the fans in San Francisco love this guy. And all of a sudden they just forgot about him last year. He got hurt, wasn't playing well. It just has been a disaster over the last few months for Jimmy G. So which way is Jimmy G going to go? I think he's a little too old, quote unquote, old in the hobby already. He started out in Patriot land, got traded, sat behind Tom for a while, got traded out here, had basically one good year. So we'll see which way he goes. But the 49ers did trade up to, I think, the number 3 pick, and it's believed that they'll draft a quarterback. I think there's one out of BYU that they'll probably take, or something like that. The Bears signed former Bengals and Cowboys quarterback Andy Dalton. That's just a stopgap. What they draft, what they're going to do with that, Andy Dalton's history, in my opinion. Same with the Redskins. They signed Ryan Fitzpatrick. I think they let go of their quarterback. Can't even remember his name. They let go of the guy that they drafted just 2 years ago or so. And so we'll see what they do. Again, another team that's just kind of in transition. As we go through this list, there's a lot of quarterbacks on teams that are in transition, which means there's going to be a lot of rookie quarterbacks that are going to be overdrafted, in my opinion. So you just want to be careful about just buying a guy because he was picked high. It doesn't, as we've seen, as we go down this list, it doesn't matter. Like, some of these guys were drafted really high and they're out of the league or off the team that originally drafted. Speaking of quarterbacks that were drafted high, the Jets still have Sam Darnold. I know that they've tried to get rid of him, but other teams in the league, I think the media and fans are higher on him than actual teams are. And if you watch Sam Darnold when he was at USC, he wasn't really that good. So it's not actually surprising that he's not doing well in the NFL, at least in my opinion. But another quarterback where his values have come way down. And if you think for whatever reason they might turn things around with him, well, look, he'd have plenty of upside there as well. The Patriots have Cam Newton. I think they gave him a new smaller deal or something like that. He's coming back. I don't necessarily, we sold a Cam Newton card the other day on Check Out My Cards. I think $50 or something, and didn't make a lot of money, a lot of profit on him, but people are buying his cards out there. I don't even think it was a rookie card. The Saints in an interesting position. So Drew Brees obviously retired. They've got Taysom Hill, who would fill in on certain packages for Breeze and looked pretty good. I remember him in college. He was actually an effective college quarterback as well. And they also signed Jameis Winston. So, Bucks refugee going to New Orleans. So we'll see what happens there. Do they have like a combo thing headed there? We'll see. I don't know how much upside either of those guys have if it is one of those situations where they're not the man. So we'll see what happens there. You got to believe too, the Saints would probably be looking for either a veteran quarterback or another quarterback, or trying to get another quarterback on that team, since they were in the playoffs. And I think they were very close to advancing there. In fact, Panthers got Teddy Bridgewater. Again, another team that has a quarterback like the Bears, maybe even the 49ers, you'd consider, certainly the Redskins, a team that has a quarterback, but they're not super pleased about it. It's certainly not something for the long term. We'll see what the Panthers do in the draft. The Dolphins drafted Tua. I can't even pronounce his last name. Again, great college career, looked great on a great team, great offensive line, great talent around him. Came in the NFL, had a first cut, came out hot, looked really good, almost looked like Manscaped, looked like your balls when you Manscaped. I mean, he looked really, really good. And then the hair started growing back in and his battery ran out and he did not trim his, So Tua, we'll see what happens. Again, another quarterback where it's like, which way is he going to go? Is he going to go Baker and Josh Allen, or is he going to go the other way? So we'll see what happens with that one. The Eagles have Jalen Hurts. Interesting situation. They drafted him, I think, either in the second or third round. Again, Tua kind of like bumped him out of, I think he was on Alabama, and he basically kicked Carson Wentz out of town. And so we'll see what happens there. And I don't necessarily, I'm not in love with a Jalen Hurts, but we'll see. That's a good coach. It's a good team. We'll see what they're able to do. Here's a situation. The Pittsburgh Steelers obviously got Big Ben. Big Ben's probably got, one more year, 2 years, maybe max. So who's next in line over on the Steelers? That's what I'm going to be paying big attention to. Obviously, if they draft a guy, I think you could position yourself in that situation. So the Steelers is one I'm going to be keeping close eyes on. Indianapolis have Carson Wentz. Obviously, he bolted from the Eagles, got traded. He's now on the Indianapolis Colts. We'll see if again, another guy, which way is he going to go? Is he going to be out of the league, or is he going to be, a mainstay there in Indianapolis? Again, another guy you could probably buy on the cheap and see what he's able to do there. Now the Raiders got Derek Carr. I know my boy Vegas Dave is just, he just claims he's got all these Derek Carr cards and he can sell them for tens of thousands of dollars. I mean, he put out a video the other day where it was like, oh, the Derek Carr cards are worth a lot. And it's like, who the hell is buying Derek Carr cards for tens of thousands of dollars? Maybe it's him. So we'll see what happens, which way he goes. I think if you could get fans in Vegas, it would be nice. I would assume probably maybe they have some limited capacity there in Vegas if everything goes well. But which way is Derek Carr going to go? Is he going to mature and get the Raiders over the hump into the next step in the playoffs? Or is he just going to have a mediocre year and kind of be a mediocre quarterback in the hobby? We'll see which way he decides to go. The Browns obviously got Baker Mayfield. Again, a quarterback where if you bought him low, you probably saw some, I don't know this for a fact, but I'm assuming you saw a little bit of price appreciation in Baker last year, especially if you timed it towards the playoffs. I think they won a game. They like butt kicked the Steelers in a game and he looked great. And I think the next week they played the Chiefs and they did pretty good in that game. They actually were probably a play or two away from making that an even closer game. I know Mahomes was hurt in that game. So look, Baker Mayfield, which way is he going to come back on that side? Now you got the Bengals. They got Joe Burrow. When is he coming back? I know that you picked up a Joe Burrow card the other day, some kind of rookie card. I've kind of bought and sold a few cards of his. I'm not, I don't think the Bengals are going to be a great team next year. Will they be a little bit better? Sure. But, it's a tough situation for the Bengals. They don't have they just lost AJ Green. They have some other talent on that team, but they're not a playoff team when you got the Ravens and the Steelers and the Browns in your division. Okay. So I not necessarily would go and run out and buy Joe Burrow cards, because I think what could happen is he could certainly come back next year and look okay, but you've got Trevor Lawrence, you've got a number of other quarterbacks that are going to be taking the attention of the hobby. Joe Burrow could be like a third or fourth year story. So I don't necessarily think you need to jump in there and run out and get him. Here's another team similar to the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Vikings have Kirk Cousins, and you got to know that Kirk Cousins is not going to be a mainstay with the Vikings, and they've got like a really good fan base, and those cards can be collected. So I'd be interested to see if the Vikings draft I think they drafted a quarterback last year in the 7th round. Will they move up? Will they get one in the 2nd, 3rd, 4th round? That's a situation just like the Steelers that I'm going to be watching very closely. The Chargers, I think NBC has this guy rated way too low. Justin Herbert was really, really good at Oregon. And when you watched his games, they didn't have a lot of talent around him, but he is extremely accurate. You watch Justin Herbert, and it's just boop, 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 boop. I mean, that fool is super accurate. And I think he's going to be, in my opinion, so we've got some quarterbacks, Matt Ryan, Stafford, there's a couple other or Aaron Rodgers. They're in the sunset of their career, right? And I'd hate to say Tom Brady because that fool looks like he could play another 10 years. So we'll leave him out of it. But Justin Herbert, in my opinion, will probably be a top 4 or 5 quarterback in this league, probably by maybe even next year. I just think he's that good from what I've seen of him in college and in the NFL. Very impressed with him. I think he's rated far too low here. We've got Matthew Stafford headed to the Rams. Again, weird trade. I don't necessarily know why they paid up so much for a quarterback that, again, is likely in the sunset of his career. We'll see what he's able to do there. I think his hobby days are over. Maybe there's a little bit of upside in some of his cards, but most of his cards have been around so long that I don't necessarily know how much upside that they have. Same with the Falcons. They've got Matt Ryan, similar situation, been around a while. The Cardinals have Kyler Murray, who's kind of done this as well. He came out, he was okay, and then he got a big boost from his cards when he didn't really do anything. And the Cardinals, I know, have signed some players. They've got a good team, but Kyler Murray, to me, doesn't look like an NFL quarterback. It looks like me out there with some shoulder pads. He is super, super small. We're not even talking like Russell Wilson small. He's like smaller than that. I just don't think personally, I would not, unless it was like bargain bin, I would not be betting on him. The Cowboys have Dak. He also had a traumatic injury. We'll see if he's able to come back as well. Here's the most complicated situation in the NFL right now. Is the Houston Texans have Deshaun Watson, and I think he would have been out of town already, maybe to the 49ers, maybe to the Broncos, maybe to maybe another team. But he's got that Me Too lawsuit. He's got about Me 14 lawsuits on top of him right now. And so I think that just complicated the situation with him, makes it complicated from a collecting perspective. I think he's a good player. I think if he had moved on to another team, it would have made his cards even more exciting. But again, I think he's got like 14 lawsuits against him right now. Look, the only one that's loving Deshaun right now is his lawyers, because they're going to be making a lot of money over the next couple weeks and months ahead. The Bucks have Tom Brady. I mean, there's nothing to say about Tom Brady other than that we bought like over 100 of his cards for $9 each. They were all graded by SGC a couple weeks before the Super Bowl. Okay. Maybe even before the playoffs started. We bought over 100 Tom Brady cards, $9 each. And then he won the Super Bowl. So you can imagine that we could probably afford a Manscaped by heading over to manscaped.com and using the promo code SCR. And we wouldn't even need to use the promo code, because we wouldn't need to save money, because we've made so much money selling Tom Brady cards over the last few weeks, as you can imagine. Get lucky, baby. I like that. The Ravens got Lamar Jackson, a guy I really like, but whether he has Super Bowl potential, I don't know. It just seems like the Ravens have not been able to get the job done in the playoffs. The Bills, Josh Allen, probably the poster boy for going from like an okay quarterback where people weren't really sure about him to now he's considered to be a top 4 or 5 quarterback in the NFL, and maybe someone that could lead his team to the Super Bowl next year. So I think it's for certain somebody that we've talked about here in the lower half of the quarterbacks is going to make that jump. Whether they get all the way to the top 5, it's probably another story, but somebody is going to make that jump this year. Who it's going to be could be a great potential for, if you want to speculate on cards or quote unquote invest on cards or whatever it is. The Titans have Tannehill. He's similar to Stafford and Matt Ryan. I don't think there's a lot of hobby love there, in my opinion. The Seahawks have Russell Wilson, another complicated situation, because if he were to move on, I don't know. I haven't been following the Russell Wilson drama close enough to know if he's on the verge of being moved or what's going to happen. I'm sure as we get closer to draft day, maybe we find a little bit more clarity about that. But if he gets moved to like the Vikings, or if he gets moved to one of these like popular teams that have like kind of a, not a quarterback that they're really in love with, well, look, that could really open up some things. And Russell Wilson could be a sneaky buy, because his cards, I'm sure, imagine being a Seahawks fan right now. How excited are you about running out and going to buy Russell Wilson cards when he doesn't necessarily even want to play there? So there could be some buying opportunities there with Russell Wilson cards. And then you got the Packers. They got Aaron Rodgers. Here's probably the sexiest little speculation that you can make. They drafted Bryce Love, I think, in the tail end of the first round last year. So will the Packers stick with Rodgers? Will Love get any love? And if he doesn't, maybe he's the next Aaron Rodgers. Because as you recall, Aaron Rodgers sat behind Brett Favre, I think, for at least a year or two. And his cards just blew up the minute he became a starter, and obviously found success. So maybe Bryce Love could find that success as well. And obviously the number one quarterback in the NFL right now, according to NBC and in the hobby, is still Patrick Mahomes, who looked vulnerable a little bit to me in the Super Bowl. I mean, they got whipped. The Chiefs got their butt kicked. He didn't look that great against the Browns. The game I saw them, they obviously probably had another game. I just don't remember it off the top of my head. I just remember them getting whipped by the Bucks. And that could be the blueprint heading into next year. And as we know with these mobile quarterbacks, okay, there's been any number of mobile quarterbacks throughout the history of the NFL. What happens? Okay, they lose their mobility a little bit. Okay, these edge rushers look like, like Shaquille O'Neal, but can run a 440. So, these guys are going to, the NFL is going to catch up a little bit. He's going to lose a step. He can throw all those arm angles and whatnot. But the other thing that I could see happening with the Chiefs too is they start losing some of their players. Some of their key players go sign a contract somewhere else, or the Chiefs just don't have any cap room because they gave 90% of the money to Mahomes. So we'll see what happens. I certainly don't expect the Chiefs to fall off next year. I certainly expect them to be a contender, but how much upside are we talking about is left with Mahomes? He's already approaching Tom Brady like type values in some of his cards, at least from the separation from him to the next guy. It's Mahomes and Brady, and then it's every other quarterback in the NFL. I mean, nobody else has, maybe Russell Wilson's up there, obviously Aaron Rodgers as well, but there's a big gap there. And so, if he doesn't perform next year, for one, it could create some buying opportunities heading into next year if you believe Mahomes is the long-term, long-term solution there for the Chiefs, which I do believe so. But I don't necessarily think that it's a great investment or speculation, right now. What do you think about? Got any thoughts about the NFL, Ryan?
I know a lot of people talking about Justin Herbert, the Chargers, Oregon quarterback. I mean, I was looking at some Kobe rookies today. Our friend Bob has he has 2 Topps Kobe rookies, which are like $2-3 bills each. Okay. He has 3 of the Fleer metal ones, which are like $1 bill each. And then he has a bunch. He has like 30-40 Kobe rookies that are probably like $50 each. Oh wow! But he was like, yeah, I need to buy some Justin Herbert cards. I was like, yeah, that I've heard a few people say that. And the thing was, I was looking the other day. I was like, oh, what's a Patrick Mahomes score rookie or rookies and stars? And it was like a couple $100. Oof. And whereas you can get a Herbert for like 10 or less than 20. So there's kind of in my opinion, if you're gonna, Mahomes has won 1 Super Bowl.
Been to two.
There's a
Been to
chance.
two.
There's a chance that he falls off.
Right.
There's a chance that, maybe he doesn't win another one. That's a real possibility. So I think I would comp cards off of him, and not that he's going to stay at that level, but you can see what they can get to. And especially you can't comp him off Tom, because that was a different era. That's when me and you were like 18 years old when his cards came out. You got Pacific, you have he was a 6th round pick too. So he was in some weird sets. You have that one Contenders card that's a big deal, but it's hard to comp current quarterbacks off Tom Brady cards, but you can comp them off of Patrick Mahomes, because Patrick Mahomes has all the Panini crap basically, or most of the Panini stuff. So in my opinion, and it was a lesser print run back then, obviously, because it was 2017 or whenever he was. So a little lesser print run, but that's what I was looking at. I was looking at Justin Herbert. I was looking at Burrow. I was looking at some of the other guys, and I was like, what is the Mahomes worth? And I was shocked at how high the Mahomes were compared to these other guys who they're only one Super Bowl behind him. And I'm not saying that it's easy to get a Super Bowl, but what I'm saying is the price of Mahomes is like, he's already Brady.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. A 200, 300 for just a regular boo-boo base rookie, let alone what his Silver Prism and some of his stuff is probably worth tens of thousands of dollars in high grade. So, he's basically right up there with Brady in some regards. Not quite maybe on the high end, but I mean, I don't know what a Mahomes National Treasure sell for. Probably a fortune. He's only won one Super Bowl. These other guys have an opportunity to catch him, exceed him, pass him. A lot of that is, the team around you and coaching and some of that other stuff, but some of that's talent too. Look at what Tom did. I mean, that's unbelievable what he did. So I've been hearing bottom line, I've been hearing a lot of people talk about Justin Herbert. I haven't seen him play that much, but I've even been looking at his cards, because I'm like, this would be the time to buy, because the supply is like is going on to ComC and on eBay. Those cards are going to dry up, or they'll go to PSA, or have one big game next year and it's gone. And now they're $50, $100, for a raw and stuff. So I would look at, if you're looking at young quarterbacks, my opinion, the next couple of months isn't the worst time to do that, because I think compared to the legends, they're cheap. And if a Justin Herbert is, 20x lower than a Patrick Mahomes, I'm just going to gamble on Justin Herbert. He's only one Super Bowl behind. So could you imagine if if Josh Allen or Justin Herbert, or shoot, even Baker or one of these guys wins a Super Bowl? Right. One of these guys will. One of these guys who are probably lesser than them, will win a Super Bowl. And what will that do to their card value? So it's exciting, because I think you brought up a good point. There's not a whole lot of stable quarterback situations right now. A lot of the good older guys are getting older, about ready to retire or have retired. Right. And these young guys, like you said, they could go either way, and they could have one hot year, and then all of a sudden offensive line situation or just a injury or underperform confidence situation, whatever it is, could be a whole different situation. So we'll see.
Yeah, we'll definitely see. And I think it's I think right now, if that's the game you like to play, and we'll talk about in our next segment, the game that we like to play. We don't like to tie up our money for 6, 12, 24 months. Some people like to do that. Certainly people that are sending cards in to grading, you're waiting 6 to 12, weeks at the minimum, maybe 6 to 12 months. A lot of the time you're tying up money for a really long period of time. And then, sure, if you can get that card and see a 50%, profit in it, that's great. But how many times could you have flipped that money at a 10% margin over that 6 to 12 months and made even more money? And so those are the kind of things that I don't necessarily think a lot of people think about, or it's obviously more sexy to buy a $10 card that goes to 100 than sell a $10 card for 12 and then for 14 and for 18 and then all the way up to 100. That's certainly something that less people do in this hobby, or less people strive to do. But I definitely think that if you want to position yourself in the NFL, you're just a fan of the NFL, There are certainly some opportunities there as well. And I think I think the one situation that is just screaming is the Bryce Love situation in the Packers. Because look, we talked about a guy with one Super Bowl. Aaron Rodgers got one Super Bowl. I don't even know if he made a second Super Bowl or not, but he's got one Super Bowl. And so what if Mahomes does that, right? Okay. Yeah, his cards are just going to be worth a lot, but how will he be compared to some of these other guys as well? So again, I'm high on Herbert, high on Burrow, maybe after next year. Oddly enough, I think I'd be more high on him. And again, you'd have to gauge how people feel about, a third, fourth year guy, because we've seen it with Tannehill and we've seen it with some of these other guys that kind of come on a little bit later. Their cards don't get that big explosion that you saw with Mahomes, kind of like first year starter. Boom. He's huge. That's why I think the Bryce Love situation is the best, because he could sit all behind Rodgers all year. And then all of a sudden Rodgers is out, and then boom, he's a starter, and everybody's like, oh shit, I got to go get his cards. And so to me, that's like the big jump. That's the one I'd be wanting to speculate on. If I was going to speculate, I want big 100x, 200x type returns. And you want to do it on a team like the Packers that have just a massive fan base and a massive amount of attention on him. But Herbert's the other guy probably that I would speculate on as well, because I think he could easily be a top 4 or 5 quarterback. I don't know enough about the Chargers on where they'll position themselves, whether it be a playoff run or whatever. But if that obviously were to happen, I think he could have a great opportunity there. Before we get to our next segment, again, we are sponsored today by Manscaped. Head on over to manscaped.com. Use that promo code SCR. Guys, that this show would not be happening. I'm serious right now. This show would literally not be on right now. You'd not be listening or watching to this show right now if it wasn't for Manscaped, because believe me, I have a YouTube channel with nearly 100,000 subscribers. Okay. I put up a video and I make $50 to $100. No problem. Okay. When I put up a video on sportscardradio.com or do a podcast, I make $0.0. I make $0 doing this. In fact, I'm probably losing money right now doing this. But if Manscaped, you head on over to manscaped.com, use the promo code SCR, your balls will thank you. And there'll be more shows. Believe it or not, though, Ryan, if Manscaped decides not to sponsor any more future episodes, there might be another sponsor on the way. So we'll talk about that some other time. But could be that the Sports Card Show hangs around because people are going to line our pockets and shave our balls and make them feel nice and smooth. So hopefully everybody enjoys that. So next topic, we are going to talk. Some of you guys are watching this on YouTube. It's a special show. Again, we're sponsored by Manscaped. Some of you guys are watching this on YouTube or Zoom calling this. We're going to put it out in podcast form, but we got video. And some of you guys are watching this on YouTube. And so you can probably see on your side or your down feed or whatever, they're suggesting some of these sports card investor guys and these guys that, self-admittedly are just coming back to the hobby over the last 12, maybe 24 months, usually at the most. Look, first of all, Ryan and I started, we've been collecting for a long time. We don't have to maybe divulge that because we might divulge our age at this point, but we've been collecting a long time. We've worked at card shops. We've owned card shops. I currently have a shop right now, although with COVID, it's not really open, but when that happens, it'll be nice. I sell mostly gaming supplies and things like that, gaming cards. And we might talk about that towards the tail end of the show. But here's the deal. A lot of these guys are just getting back into the hobby. They don't remember when Vince Carter was hot and then wasn't. They don't remember when Anton Jameson was hot and then wasn't, or Jason Kidd, or any number of, especially when it comes to basketball. They have not seen cards go down. Okay. They've only seen the cards go up. It's like a real estate agent that started selling houses in 2010 or 2011. It's like somebody that's only bought Bitcoin over the last, forever. Bitcoin's only gone up, but it's like a stock investor that wasn't around in 08, 09, or wasn't around in 2000 and 2001 to see those crashes. All they've seen is price appreciation. Okay. And so I think it kind of skews some of the advice or some of the tips that they're giving people out there. But What we will say is we've been putting up content, whether it's on the website, a podcast. I mean, this is like the 12th year, 13th year. I think this might be the 13th year of this podcast. Okay. We've been putting up content about trading cards for over a decade. And I would say the quality and the entertainment value, those two things, the quality and the entertainment value has certainly gone up over the last 12 to 24 months. So I want to pat those guys on the back, give those guys credit for putting out entertaining and quality content. Okay. But the advice, not always high quality. I will say it's almost like getting stock tips again from a guy who's super entertaining and has got a great presence and all this. But when you go look at his portfolio, it's down 50% because he doesn't really know how to pick stocks. And so I think we might be getting into that territory with some of these guys, not to name any of them by name. And they certainly have time to prove themselves. But a lot of these guys are tied up into this modern card game, Ryan, as you know, that these modern cards were explosive, especially when we saw people come back into the hobby. It's almost like a Ferrari or a Porsche or a Tesla or a Mercedes. This is what people gravitate to right when they get back into the hobby. The modern stuff, the athletes that are playing right now on TV, blah, blah, blah. But we've seen especially over the last, I would say the last 6 months, we've seen a dramatic shift into Michael Jordan, Shaquille O'Neal, Bo Jackson, Barry Bonds, Mark McGuire, any number of these guys. We're seeing their cards just steadily increase, especially Michael Jordan. I mean, we had the Last documentary that spiked his values, but they have gone up even more over the last few weeks and months. And I think it has caught some of these quote sports card investor types off guard because they thought Luka Doncic cards were just going to keep going up, or Giannis cards were just going to keep going up and up and up and up. And they were not expecting, when you go look at the price and sales of those cards, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but those cards have basically been flat, if not down, for, we're talking about a good 8, almost 12. They saw a bump initially when we had kind of the virus kickoff, but they've been sliding down and staying sideways for the last six to 12 months or so, depending on the player. And I think there's some very obvious reasons for that. And I've seen some videos where guys are saying, oh, it's going to come back. Wait till the playoffs. Wait till, somebody makes a playoff run. And, but I'm skeptical of that a little bit because you look how well Zion Williamson is playing as well as any player in the NBA period right now. Zion Williamson is playing really, really great basketball. I think over the last 4 or 5 games, he's putting up just phenomenal numbers. And in my opinion, he is already one of the best players in the NBA. And I think in a year or two, if he's able to stay healthy, he probably will become the best player in the NBA. Obviously LeBron, some of these other players, kind of sliding, Steph Curry, kind of moving on in their careers a little bit. But how much have Zion Williamson cards gone up? And obviously everybody has focused on for some reason, a white basketball player who's overweight and gets hurt every year is Luka. And we've seen that his cards absolutely have not appreciated over the last 6 months as well. And people are predicting that, look, it's only temporary and they're just going to continue to go up. So I'd like to first kick it off to you, Ryan. What's your thoughts on kind of the modern market? Will this stuff come back? Because I've seen a lot of arguments that, oh, no, don't worry, it's going to come back. This shit's going to go back up once these guys get in the playoffs and things like that. What's your thoughts on this?
Nobody's watching the NBA right now. The games, if they're allowing fans or limited capacity, nobody's talking about it. I just hung out with somebody I coached basketball with for 2 years. We didn't mention the NBA one time in our 2-hour conversation. The current NBA, what's going on right now with, Lakers hurt or whatever, the Clippers or trade deadline or what have you. So I think the interest in the modern guys is an all-time, like you said, Zion Williams looks like, a point guard Shaq right now, but nobody cares. Yeah. He's down there in New Orleans. They're not a very good team. He's not. He's on TV, but again, nobody's watching. The stands aren't filled, and we have the lowest rated Super Bowl. You're going to see baseball come back. It's going to be, boy, national ratings for games are going to be crickets. Local markets probably, come back strong if the team's playing well, but you're going to see national baseball game ratings are going to be in the tank. Who the heck wants to watch a Red Sox Yankees game? Not me out in California. Guarantee that. Don't want to see that whatsoever. Don't even care. Don't care whatsoever. Barely care about the Giants. So I'm a huge Lakers fan. I haven't watched a game. I can't even tell you in the last little bit. So that all boils down to the modern market. Until the interest comes back in the game, you're going to see certain guys, if they have a big night or if they do really well or compete for the MVP, they're going to have an opportunity for their cards to move. But Luka's cards have moved so much. The price is baked into these guys so much. Look at LaMelo Ball. The price is baked into LaMelo so much. When you're talking about, Prism first off the line pricing at, $2,000 to $4,000 a box, the price is already baked into these cards. You've seen it in some ways with these NFL quarterbacks when they come out. Their Prism rookies and some of their rookies are worth a lot of money, even for the late first round, second round quarterbacks, because the price is just so baked in with the box prices and that there is just very little value left. And now that the graders, PSA and Beckett, have raised their prices, or at least PSA, has, it's more expensive to grade these cards. So there's, less value there and less profit margin there if that's your game there. So I think modern is going to be very, very hard. I know I agree with you. Some of this content on YouTube is entertaining. It's great. It's far and away better than when we were one of the only people creating content 10 years ago for cards, literally. So some of this content is really good, but these guys don't talk about selling cards a whole lot. They talk about buying and almost waiting for this mystical price, hitting this all-time high. It's like, I would have just been flipping Luka's if that was my guy. I would have been just flipping him all the way up,
right,
to this kind of sideways movement in his cards. So modern's going to be tough. And I think when you see guys paying $4 million for a Luka 101, again, it gets people, rational people who don't think Luka's a generational talent, to be like, well, what's a Jordan worth then? What's a Kobe Bryant worth then? What's Shaquille O'Neal cards worth? Maybe those cards are way underpriced. Maybe they're still way underpriced. If Luka's third-year Prism card is worth $100, boy, all of Jordan's stuff is still underpriced. All of it. Literally all of it. Right. So to me, that's what I, look for. It'd be like if what's the Clemson quarterback's name? Number one pick. Trevor Lawrence. It'd be like if Trevor Lawrence came out and all his stuff is more than Tom Brady and Patrick Mahomes. It just at some point wouldn't make sense.
No,
it just wouldn't make sense. He's playing in Jacksonville, and I get that he's great. I've seen him play too. I can't remember his name, but I've seen him play. He's a very good quarterback. Has a great chance to do some great things in the NFL. But the way you guys have paid for Luka, for Zion, for LaMelo now, for all these guys over the last few years,
right,
like they're effing Michael Jordan, and they're not. All that's going to come to roost here, in the next few years as these guys kind of develop, and you realize, oh, year 5, Luka still hasn't won MVP and still hasn't won a playoff series. Oh, Jason Tatum and Jason Brown still are the same guys over on the Celtics. And so all this stuff is all going to come to roost over the next couple of years, and you see price fluctuations and stuff. But modern stuff's tough. I'd still, I'm on there buying Michael Jordan cards every day, and I still think they're underpriced. I think Michael Jordan's underpriced. Charles Barkley's underpriced. Dennis Rodman's underpriced. Larry Bird's underpriced. Magic Johnson's underpriced. Any top 20, 25 legend, in the Kobe Bryant's probably still underpriced.
Yeah.
His stuff has obviously exploded. He's probably still underpriced compared to what these dorks are paying for effing Luka Doncic and some of these other guys. Some of these other guys who aren't even half the player Luka is.
Right.
You know what I mean? And,
Tyler
and,
Hero.
and then when you start comparing it to the other sports,
Yeah.
quarterbacks are kind of in their own ballpark, but gosh, underpriced running back, underpriced wide receivers, underpriced baseball cards. Compare Mike Trout prices to Lucas. Compare Mike Trout cards to Jordan.
Right.
And then you could make a case that Mike Trout's heavily underpriced. So we'll see what happens. I think the modern basketball is overpriced. Probably some modern NFL quarterbacks are overpriced, and these guys are taking a price. And like, ever show that on YouTube? Is that ever a part of their content portfolio? I don't see a whole lot of that. Like, what have you guys sold? And what did you pay for it? I'd love to see some content like that, but their content is really entertaining. There's a lot of really good content on YouTube. It's entertaining. It's well done. It's highly produced. It's got better lighting than anything I got going on over here. So really high quality content that I really enjoy. So I don't want to like disparage it or anything like that.
Right. But we don't see the sell. You know, it's almost like a guy that's like, I'm a stock expert, but he doesn't ever show his portfolio. He doesn't ever show the stocks that he's buying. He doesn't, or at least doesn't ever say, I'm buying at this price, which is, I have a stock channel where I'm constantly saying, hey, if it gets here, I'm buying. If it gets here, I would sell. If it gets here, I would buy it. You know, every video I do, that is actually that is part of the content. I don't see a lot of that. I don't see a lot of, you know, I'm buying at this price, I'm selling at this price. But I think you made a good point that I think the phenomenon that we saw with a lot of modern NBA is basically pulled forward a ton of the gains. And we've seen this in the stock market as well. You see stocks like Amazon and Apple and a lot of these stocks just skyrocketed last year. And they've basically been going sideways for 3 months, 4 months or so, maybe even longer than that in some of these names. You know, they've just been going sideways. Okay. Yeah. They go up a little bit and they go down, they go back up, but they're basically in the sideways range for months now. And it is because they just pulled forward tons and tons of price and demand because everybody had the same thought. Oh, you know, pandemic hit, everybody's going to do, you know, Zoom video and all this other stuff. And so obviously it made sense. But after you get past that, you know, where's the next leg of growth happens? And I think that's what people are asking with stocks. And I think that's the next thing people are starting to question about NBA talent is where's that next leg of growth going to happen? Because if these guys aren't going to make playoff runs, and if you look at Luka, if you look at him as a rookie and you look at video of him now, I was watching a Maverick game the other day and they were showing him in his rookie year because there was fans in the stands and all this stuff. And I could tell it was his rookie year and he's much thinner and he's in much better shape than when you see him now. He looks like me. He's a little bloated and he's, you know, a little out of shape. And he's getting hurt. He's missing games. He's getting sick. Okay. And, you know, it's not that Michael Jordan, that never happened to Michael Jordan or Magic Johnson or Magic especially. But, you know, these guys can get sick. They can get hurt. And, you know, how is that going to affect their values? And we saw last year, I mean, the Clippers disposed of the Mavericks. Were the games entertaining? Sure. But they basically disposed of them and the Clippers sucked. I think the Nuggets or the Jazz beat them. I mean, they just whipped them. So, you know, I don't anticipate the Mavericks making a deep playoff run with looking at their roster, looking at the talent that they have, looking at the inconsistent play that they have this year. I don't see them making a playoff run this year. So, in fact, I think it's going to be the same teams that we've seen. You know, it's going to be the Nets and the Lakers once the Lakers get healthy. So, you know, and again, I'm not convinced that even if you have a playoff run by one of these teams, that anybody would give a damn. You know, like because nobody really cares that much about the modern NBA, quite frankly, because like you said, Zion's tearing it up, and I think we even bought some Zion cards the other day, or we were close to winning on some. And if we're close to winning them, the prices haven't gotten so far out of whack on those that it doesn't make sense. And so, and, you know, obviously LaMelo kind of pulled forward a ton of gains and then he got hurt. So, and not a lot of the key cards have come out yet. And so that's another thing that's the other part of the equation that's a little bit different this year, because you already have Prism and probably Optic by now with Mellow. But now we are waiting all the way through playoff time before Mellow's key cards come out. And if Mellow's key cards come out during playoff time, and there's break after break after break, and there's, them selling on eBay and things like that, is that money, yeah, there's going to be people that are pulling Mellows and then bringing money back in. Is that money then going to go into whoever's making a playoff run, whether it's Giannis, whether it's Luka, whether it's somebody on the Jazz or whoever, Anthony Davis or whoever? I'm not convinced that that's where the money will flow back into, because you'll have baseball at this time. You know what I mean? Like you'll have baseball prospects that are popping off at this time. You'll have NFL right around the corner as well. We've got a different calendar this year. And so I'm not convinced that Modern is going, we're talking about Modern, Luka, Giannis, those guys. I'm not convinced that we haven't pulled forward a year or two of gains over the last 12 months or so. And these things can just go sideways or down. We've seen it. I mean, we've been in this hobby a long time. We've seen it with Vince Carter. We've seen it with Chris Bosh, seen it with Carmelo Anthony. We've seen it with Kyrie Irving. We've seen it year after year after year after year. Guys get hot for a year or two. It seems to last a little bit longer in the NBA. Guys get hot, and then it plateaus and basically goes down after that. Okay. Unless you're Michael Jordan or LeBron. I mean, LeBron's had some plateaus and some falls as well. So there's very few players in the history of card collecting that have just continued to ascend in price. I mean, we're talking about just on one or two hands where you can probably account where they never had a dip. Okay. Almost every player has a dip. And I don't think Giannis, I don't think Luka, I don't think Zion are going to be somehow have the vaccine that keeps them from their card values dipping. Okay. We've actually already saw that. And to what degree will it continue? I think is the question to ask. But if the other question I'd ask is, look, are these guys actually selling these cards? Are people actually buying cards and selling these cards? We could show you right now on our phones. I mean, I've got eBay notifications all day long on our phone of things that we're buying and that we're selling. In fact, we've sold more cards than we have listed right now. We had our best month, I think, of all time on Check Out My Cards this last month, and it's not even over yet. Okay. And these are eBay and Check Out My Cards. These were platforms people were leaving for dead because managed payments came in, and all of a sudden that was supposed to, be bad, when it was like, hello, managed payments makes it way easier to pay. You don't need PayPal. All of a sudden now you can use your credit card and not have to log in through PayPal, which you might be banned from, or you don't want to use, or for whatever reason, don't want to have a PayPal account. Now you can pay like every other website in the world. You can play with 10 different payment options. So it actually, I think, helped eBay, and it is accelerated the sales on there, because you got these dumbasses that left the platform, and people like us have been able to clean up on there. And same thing with Check Out My Cards. People are like, oh, it's taken 10 weeks. I sent in a request during a pandemic, and I need my baseball card so I can shave them with my Manscaped. Look, we were in a pandemic, and they're based in like Washington, which is like bluer than water. I mean, they don't even want you to walk outside there, let alone, have employees in a warehouse working. Okay. And imagine everybody's getting unemployment. Do you really want to go work and pull cards out and put them in envelopes? No, nobody wants to do that. So it's hard to get employees. And what we do when Check Out My Card, when everybody was complaining about Check Out My Cards, all we were doing was buying more stuff. Okay. So if the guy that is saying, hey, this card's going to go up, this card's going to do this guy's going to do that, and they have a great flashy background and a great channel and lots of subscribers, that's great. But if they can't show you actual sales, if they can't show you like real sales, then I don't know what value they're necessarily doing to you. You know what I mean? Like what are you actually getting out of that? So here's our eBay. 568 items sold in the last 90 days, $19,723 in sales. I mean, you should be able to pull up your phone. I mean, we only have 216 active listings right now. We've actually sold twice as many cards over the last 90 days as we have listed right now. We can't get this stuff fast enough. Okay. And look in the cart. We have over 40 items right now in the cart. Okay. We're buying this stuff like constantly and selling it constantly. Okay. And sure, if you want to be a quote investor I think speculator is probably a better term, and buy Luka's because you think he's going to make the playoffs and he's going to make a deep run, you're speculating. You're not a businessman. You're not an investor. Okay. Because we can show you, I don't have my spreadsheets or anything on my phone, but we're making consistent 20, 30% margin on all these sales, sometimes higher than that. But it's consistently 20 or 30%. And I know that's not the sexy thing. I know that's not the, oh my God, I bought a card for 100 and now it's 10,000 and I'm balling. Nobody's doing that. Okay. The guys that make money in this hobby buy a card for 100 and sell it for 140. And after fees net out 120. And they're doing that every day, every second of the day. And those are the people that make lots of money in this hobby. Same thing with check out my cards. They're buying cards, right? And they're selling them. Okay. They're not buying them and holding them and putting them in their backdrop of their YouTube videos. They're not buying them and holding them and then watching them go down or sideways. They will have sold them by then already. You're a speculator. If you want to buy and hold shit, look at the chart of Bitcoin. Look at the chart of Amazon stock. Look at the chart of Apple stock. Look at the chart of Microsoft stock. Look at the chart of Netflix stock. Look at the chart of Google stock. You want to buy and hold something? Do a max chart of that. You want to buy and hold that shit. And then look at the tax. I mean, we don't need to run down the rabbit hole of tax, the way those things are taxed and how it's completely different, especially if it's in like a retirement account. Buy and hold a Luka that you paid X for and you sold it for 4 million. Well, guess what? You probably owe the government 1.9 million. And if you don't pay it, you're going to be using this in prison. Manscaped.com. Head over to manscaped.com. Use the promo code SCR to save yourself some money and get free shipping. Ryan, you got any final thoughts on the modern card market, kind of where we're at? We're not talking a lot about the Shaqs and the Jordans because that's what we're buying. That's what we're getting outbid on right now. Okay. We're cleaning up on this right now. Believe me, like this is just money's falling out of the sky on those cards. We don't necessarily want to get on here and give all the goods out, but any thoughts on this?
I mean, one guy that I'm speculating on, like you mentioned, is Keldon Johnson. Just because I've literally, if the guy walked by me on the street, I wouldn't recognize him. But probably have several $100s worth of his cards just because the things I hear about him, are good things. So that's what I think that a lot of these YouTube guys are, is they just, they're more speculators, because the real money, like you said, is just buying and flipping this stuff. And you don't see a lot of people doing that. You actually don't see a lot of people doing that. It's very interesting. They want to buy and hold, and maybe they're flipping this stuff, but they don't talk about it. I don't know why you wouldn't talk about it. There's lines outside Walmart and Target for this retail stuff. And I'm like, guys, you could just stay at home and bid on Michael Jordan cards, but don't, I guess. So, I mean, that's what I'm going to do.
Or have a 582 membership
or something like that. So, I don't know. I think people are caught up on this modern stuff, and they've seen price appreciation in some of the guys. Patrick Mahomes, I think, was a second round pick. So I bet you could go look at a graph of his stuff, and it might look like a Bitcoin chart at some point. So,
oh yeah,
they see that, and like you said, that is sexy. It's not sexy to buy a Michael Jordan card for 25 and then flip it for 50. It's just not going to get a lot of retweets or whatever, likes or whatever the fuck people are, clout or whatever the fuck people are chasing now. And I think by and large, people are more concerned with clout and likes and than they are money. And obviously you can make money with YouTube videos. You do it yourself, but I just think if you're going to sit there and talk about cards, investing in cards, then okay, let's see what you got. Let's see what you bought and sold. Or you
Right.
know, let's stop talk. I don't always want to hear about these are my top 10 buys or these are the guys you should buy. These are the guys you should buy. It's like, okay, I get you want me to buy Luca and this and this and this and this. Like, tell me when you're selling.
Yeah.
When are you selling? Have you sold? When are you gonna sell? And if it's in the playoffs, when there's a dip, you're in there buying. When he has his 40-point game, you're selling. But I don't know. I think a lot of people just like to hold and fondle and caress their cards, and they maybe don't understand business very well.
Well,
They
I think
probably
too,
have a
it's
9-to-5 job.
yeah, I think so. I think that's a lot of it. But I think also, you know, kind of how we started this segment is these guys have only seen these cards go up. They've only come back into the hobby over the last year or two and only seen the cards go up. And so they assume that that is what's going to continue to happen. But again, it's like a real estate agent that only saw house prices go up, only see interest rates go down, only see stock prices go up. The people that have been in the game a long time know that that is sure. Can it last for an extended period of time? Of course it can. Can it last maybe longer than some people want it to? Of course it can. But it will come to an end at some point. And when we're talking about athletes and how fickle people are with them, and especially the human body, you know, we're talking about performance, and it can, and especially when we're talking second, third, fourth, fifth year, and you've got new shiny toys coming in all the time, it becomes harder and harder to maintain the levels that we've seen. Because like you said, you look at what a Luka cost and what you know, a really nice Magic Johnson or a really nice a really nice Jordan. I mean, we're talking about not necessarily about 86 Fleer PSA 9s and 10s, but a really nice Jordan is not worth nearly as much as a Luka card, or a really nice Mike Trout. Okay, maybe not his Topps update, although his Topps update is not like crazy expensive unless you get up into the 10s. Even then, it's not astronomical. But we're talking about Mike Trout, who might be more comparable to some of these guys. Never won anything, just puts up stats, is, you know, is kind of a stat filler, but is undeniably a great player. You know, you look at his cards are way, way lower than where a lot of these guys are. And so we'll see what happens. But personally, I think the strategy in a hot market is not buy and hold. Okay. That's like, you know, it's like when stocks are really, really hot, the strategy is not necessarily buy them at the top and just hold them to go higher. Okay. Or like the housing market. Okay. Housing market's crazy right now, crazy high. If you think cards are hot, go look at real estate. I mean, it's just unbelievable. I don't think there's any real estate investor out there that is like, oh yeah, jump right in right now and just buy the house and you'll be good. No, a lot of them are saying, well, you need to go to the cities now because that's where you're seeing price depreciation. You know, I mean, you go out in the suburbs, you go out in the country, and those houses are flying. Okay. And I don't see a lot of real estate investors, you know, jumping into those markets saying, I want in, I want in. They're waiting for a pullback. They're waiting for their turn. And so we'll see what happens. But I think there could be some opportunities, but not necessarily convinced that it'll be in these kind of high flying guys. Because again, we've been in this hobby for a long time, especially focused on basketball primarily. I mean, you know, guys that have gone up and been at the top of the hobby and then have gone down are far more common than a guy like Michael Jordan, who just continues to go up every year. Or like, I mean, Shaq was at the top of the hobby there. Speaking of a guy that's the top of the hobby, Shaq was at the top. And then even during his heyday with the Lakers and then with the Heat and things like that, his cards weren't that valuable. His cards weren't, it wasn't like Shaq was like the guy that you had to pull out of the products. And so, you know, and Shaq was a great player. Shaq, you know, undoubtedly probably easily a top 10 player of all time. And so we'll see if these other players, while their stats look really good in today's NBA game, we'll see if they're able to hold that type of attention for the long period of time, because like we've seen with Shaq and some of these other players, it is actually difficult to do that over the length of your career. And in fact, I would say that there's probably only one or two players, Michael Jordan, and you could argue maybe Magic Johnson and maybe Larry Bird were able to do that over the length of their career, just have kind of steady high pricing throughout the length of their career. Not very many other players were like that. I mean, Kobe saw his, Kobe had his ups and downs. Okay. And we even saw when he signed with Panini, I mean, the value of his autograph went, because he had Upper Deck stuff that was pretty valuable. And then he all of a sudden was just signing for Panini, like they're printing United States dollars right now. And the value of a Kobe autograph went down considerably. And so, we've seen players have ups and downs. So we'll see what happens going forward. But I think the winning strategy is the one that we've been employing for over a decade now. And that is buy and sell, buy and sell, buy and sell. Don't try to pick bottoms. Don't try to pick tops. Would you do that in real estate right now? Would you try to pick a top and a bottom? No. If you needed to sell your house, you'd sell one. If you needed to buy one, you buy one. Okay. Same thing with the stock market. The guys that make the least amount of money are trying to pick the tops and bottoms and trying to do that. No, you find a range where you would buy and you find the range where you sell. And that's where you execute your plan, especially if I don't sell a lot of stocks. I'm just looking to acquire them. But with trading cards, there's the range you buy them and there's the range you sell them. And that's it. I don't think, and again, maybe there's specific examples. You've got a basketball guy. I know I was on Jordan Poole before the season started for a number of different reasons. And there's other players that we occasionally will throw $100, $200 at, acquire a fair number. We did with Lonzo Ball. That worked out brilliantly. We did it with Kyle Kuzma. That worked out brilliantly. You did it with Brandon Ingram. That worked out brilliantly. But again, that was more, they were on the Lakers. We were fans of them. We would watch them play. There was an opportunity to buy those cards really cheap, and they just happened to blow up and accelerate in value, and we would sell them. I'd sold 10 Lonzo Ball cards this week. So, and I still have, we bought so many that we still have some. So, you buy some and you sell them, and maybe you keep one or two in the portfolio, or you make so much money that you have one or two laying around. I got a bunch of boxes over my shoulder right now, and I've just kept them because I've made so much money selling supplies this year. One touches sell for like $10. I don't have any. I got some ones that just came in the other day. They're not Ultra Pro, so they don't sell super fast. But Ultra Pro one touches, you can get $10 a one touch for. And I've had trouble getting them, but when you get them, you like quadruple your money. And so I've had such a great year doing that. It's like, why would I sell this other stuff? I'll just hold on to it. So I could see having some inventory there, but I don't get the sense that a lot of these investor guys that are quote unquote, these experts are getting back into the hobby over the last year or two are that sophisticated about what they're doing. They certainly probably don't have wholesale licenses. They haven't, bought and sold unopened product. It's extraordinarily hard to get unopened product. I've got a box of Obsession up there. I only got one box. So got anything else to add? I think we're towards the end of the show. Thanks to manscaped.com. Head over to the manscaped.com, use the promo code SCR. If you have listened to this whole podcast and watched this whole video and you haven't gone over to manscaped.com and entered the promo code SCR, do it now. Trust me, you need this product. It's like Ryan said, it's a high quality product, but it's got this little light on it. And if I could turn mine on, you'd actually see it. There's a little light on it. I'm telling you, that's really nice. And this thing will shave everything. If you got that Anthony Davis thing going on, you can get in between here. You can kind of do the sides of, like hair kind of grows right here. You can kind of do that. If you want to do, you could do your beard. If you wanted to do that, you got chest here. It's there. Some of these guys that work out a lot, they'll do their arms. And so this to me would be something that you could, very much use. Especially if you want to, I could see using this in combination with a razor. Okay, you want to get silky smooth on your arms, but maybe you don't want to do that in the shower, clog up your drain or whatever. Well, you come across this out, you go outside or do it over a trash can or whatever, get your arms really, really smooth. And then if you want, like baby buttery soft, you come across on a razor, and then you don't get that razor burn, because when you got a bunch of hair and you got to shave, well, you get razor burn. I don't care what you're using, what product you're using. Whereas this kind of eliminates that razor burn, because you get most of the hair here. And then if you want to use a razor, if you want to use like a traditional razor for whatever reason, well, you can come across just in one swipe on that. You're not, at risk of getting razor burn. So that's why we like Manscaped. It's high quality product, great company. Promo code SCR, save you some money, and the balls will thank you. The last thing I want to say, hey, look, if your investor can't flash something like this to you also, like, are they really making a lot of money? Like, this is why it's like, if you're stock guy, if you're taking stock tips from a guy that can't show you a nice car and a nice watch, it's like, is that really, something that you should be doing? So if your sports card investor can't show you, there you go, nice car. And if your sports card investor can't show you like hundreds of dollars in sales,
for real,
thousands of dollars in sales, like on eBay, like we'll bring up our eBay really quick just for the YouTube fans, and just here's our sold, and it takes a while to load, but we've got a bunch of stuff that's pending. I mean, if they can't do this for you live on camera and show you, here's all the stuff
we didn't win today. Like, this is all the stuff we didn't win. I put in 300 bids today on eBay. 300.
And I'm scrolling through, and I'm on my fourth or fifth scroll, and we're sold March 21st. So last week we're talking about. This is just hundreds and hundreds of items. There's a golf club, but now we're on March 17th. So we're like 2 weeks ago, and we're still just sold. I mean, if the guy that you're taking advice from can't show you stuff like this, like really easily, then guess what? He's a collector. He's not an investor. He's not a speculator. He's not a businessman. He's not making money in this game. He's maybe making money off his YouTube videos, but I guarantee you they ain't making money off manscaped.com. Head on over to manscaped.com, enter the promo code SCR. This podcast would not have happened if it wasn't for Manscaped. Go show them some love, maybe mention them on social media as well, if you want to do that. Ryan, you have any closing thoughts for the fans out there?
No, just pick your lane. You want to be an investor, you want to be a speculator, you want to be a collector. Nobody's going to judge you. Pick what you want to do. We're going to talk a lot about flipping and doing that stuff. That's just because what we enjoy. There's other people who they buy this stuff and they would never dream of selling it. It's like you buy a 1968 Camaro. You're not going to go flip that. You buy your dream home. You're not going to go flip that. A lot of people feel that way about cards. That's perfectly fine. That's what it's all about, that there's different segments. But, if you want to flip cards, again, these guys need to be not only telling you, hey, this is the hottest shit ever, my top 5, blah, 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 blah. Okay, what have you sold today? What did you place bids on today? What are you taking in and out today? So that's very important, because otherwise these guys are just pumping cards that they have, pumping cards that they want to buy, pumping cards maybe that they want to sell. But I'm not convinced a lot of these guys sell anything. Why don't you hear about, this big sports card investor made this huge flip? Only guy that talks about his flips are Vegas Dave. And in reality, that's the only guy you really hear about. So be careful who you're listening to. Again, it's good entertainment, but always take it at face value, and don't take it for more than what it's worth. These guys aren't on there buying and selling cards. These guys aren't like big eBay sellers or anything like that. These guys can't even show you a check on my cards account with 10,000 cards in it. These guys are working a day job. That's what's happening. Or they're on federal unemployment. One of the two. So, ouch. That's all I mean, for real.
Yeah.
again, the entertainment value high on this stuff, but the executing and what I'm actually seeing, like I can get anything out of it. It's like, guys, you're still talking about Luka effing Silvers, like that haven't moved in how many months?
Right.
Come on, guys.
Yeah.
Like move on. Jordan cards have moved like 10x. Some other guys have moved like real moves on cards. Bo Jackson, Deion Sanders. We hit the high on that. Deion Sanders, 89 tops, PSA 10. Like those are now back at the 150. Like that's hella interesting. Wow. We sold one for 250. Now you could probably scoop one for like 150. So there's moves to these things.
Yeah.
So you don't hear enough talking about it. So it's just, Luka or Nick Claxton or what was the guy? Darius Baisley. Everybody was on. That guy sucks. Yeah. So it's like, do you guys come back and talk about your buying Darius Baisley at the highs?
Right.
And now you just hold all those cards. There's a whole bunch of guys still holding Andrew Wiggins cards, by the way, guys. Still tons of guys holding Andrew Wiggins cards, literally.
Yeah.
9.5s and black labels from whatever that was.
Right.
So anyway, sell your cards. If you want to be an investor flipper, sell your shit. Stop waiting for the high. You're not going to hit the high. Stop worrying about that. Just flip, just sell. Prove yourself. Prove that you can make money. Make it sustainable for yourself. Otherwise, you're going to end up with a stack of Andrew Wiggins or the next guy, Tyler Hero or whatever. You're going to end up with a stack of Tyler Hero cards.
Right. Or, they'll blow a knee or blow a whatever.
Something.
And then all of a sudden you're sitting on them for a year. Wait, Porzingis or something.
And you're not flipping anything.
Yeah.
If you're flipping the whole time, you can end up with a stack of Tyler Heroes because who cares? I just flipped 100 Michael Jordans over the last month. But if you're just holding, I'm waiting for the playoffs because he's going to have a double-double in the playoffs and that's going to explode. It's like, guys, they'll be lucky to be 5,000 people in the stands at these playoff games.
Well, and if everybody else has that same thought too, that, I'll wait for the playoffs to sell. We've also, we've seen a lot of times that the supply ends up overtaking kind of the demand that ends up being there. And the cards, yes, maybe the people that immediately sell, maybe there's a couple sales that go through, but when we're talking about Luka Silvers or Luka just Prisms, there are thousands of these cards in the hands of people that are just waiting for them to go up. And we see it in the stock market too, as well. It's just like, the minute a stock pops on for whatever reason, well, sellers step in, and then all of a sudden enough sellers step in and the price just drives down, especially when, supply, it's all just supply and demand. And so I think we'll see that in the NBA. Yeah. Can these guys make playoff runs? Can their cards move a little bit? But that is going to trigger all these guys that have just gotten back in over the last year or two to sell their cards because they've been holding on to those and not been able to buy the Jordans or the Shaqs or the Kobes. And then, what's going to happen there. So interesting market that we're in. We'll certainly be back again very soon to talk about it. We've committed to 2 shows there's going to be at least 2 shows. If you head over to manscaped.com and hit that promo code SCR on Manscaped, there might be lots more shows sponsored by Manscaped. So the deal that we have with them is kind of predicated on people purchasing the product as well. So the more people that purchase the product, the more shows that we have. So Ryan, thanks for tuning in today, or thanks for joining us. And thanks everybody for tuning in. Today's program will be back some other time, some other place. But for now, we are out of here.
Later.